And welcome back, guys. So, as I mentioned in the previous lesson, we are going to be creating our very own surfaces from our drawn curves. So, this is going to be an interesting voyage we are going on. So, I'm going to jump into the curve surfaces menu. I really don't like using the shelf. For some reason, it's not something I use quite a lot. I prefer going up to the create menu, and then we've got a curves tool. Yeah, just pop that window off. Now, as you can see, you've got a multitude of curve options. And another thing with drawing curves, potentially go into our side. We can like back the camera off a little bit. Now I want to go through the different curves that we have, or the ones we tend to use the most. So we've got our CV curve tool. I'm just going to go to its options and reset it. So it is the default CV curve tool. So I'm going to click that. As you can see, my cursor changes to a little crosshairs as if I'm going to be shooting someone in the latest FPS. And then I'm going to start clicking out. And as you can see, it needs at least 4 CV points to generate a curve. Now I can carry on clicking and you'll see it will average the curve out between 4 CVs at a time. And then I'm going to press enter to leave that curve. Then I'm just going to go and reset my EP curve tool because I don't know what I did last with it. And the EP curve tool is the tool I tend to use above all the others. It's just for my sake, it feels a bit easier. So with this one, again, you're going to need only 3 points to generate a curve. And as you can see, the points that we are creating is actually on the curve that we are drawing. So that makes a lot more sense for me, rather than using the CV curve tool and it generate a outer cage, and within the outer cage you have your curve. Then we got the Bezier curve. I'm just going to go reset. Then let's move along. I'm just going to go move this guy up. Then we got the Beziers. So the Beziers are interesting in the sense that it creates a curve, but as soon as you click and hold, you can see Bezier handles appear. And as you can see, I didn't do a Bezier on that one, so it stays a sharp corner. So I'm going to go click that guy to make that one the active point, and then click, and then as you can see, you can start drawing out your curves, or potentially having very harsh ones that go into softer ones. Looks like I'm drawing some sort of eagle thing. Press enter so that we have our curve, and then we've got our pencil tool, which is, as it suggests, if you have a tablet and you just draw, it creates a curve. This is the one I consider the most dirty way of creating curves, because if I go right click and go to control vertex, you can see it creates a multitude of CV points, which will be a nightmare to sort out. Go back to object mode. Then I'm going to move up a little bit more. Then we've got the 3-point arc, which is pretty cool because if you want a perfect arc system, so I'm going to click here, here, and then here. As you can see, it created an arc between those points, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to go and delete this so that I can show you other options when it comes to this 3-point arc. That guy and then that guy. Now, with the arc tool still enabled, as you can see, when I hover over these blocks, I can change the radius of the curve it creates. I can even like try and create a perfect circle, which it does. Okay, so I can put that guy, say for example here, and I want my tunnel to, I don't know, be shallow like that, I guess. Then last but not least is a 2-point arc. This one, you click the first one and the last one, and Maya generates a arc between the 2 points. Now with this arc, we still have the functionality of changing the distance between the 2 main points, and that actually looks like a bow and arrow. But we also have this little guy that we can have access to. As you can see, as soon as I click it, it flips the curve to the other side of our initially drawn points. Rather than having the curve at the bottom, if I tap on this, it'll generate the curve on the top, and then when I move these things around, it's from the top section. If I go tap it again, beneath that gizmo. Okay, now we've made a curve from every single curve option that we have. I'm going to go and just grab these guys and press delete. Now, I'm going to show you how the EP curve tool works, because when it comes to curve tools, they all have the same curve degree options. If I go to CV curve tool, as you can see, curve degrees, Bezier. That one's a bit different because it's a new addition to Maya. Pencil tool, it has either 3 or linear. When it states linear, that means a straight line. 3, it still tries to create a smooth curve. So I'm going to go to the EP curve tool. I'm going to go and change it over to linear to show you what it does when it's in linear mode. I just want to make this window a tad smaller so it actually stays on screen as well. So if it's linear, I can click and I can't draw anything other than straight lines. Okay, as you can see, it's not trying to do anything but draw straight lines. So I've got that guy, and if I go to control vertex, at every point that I click, there is a CV point that I can manipulate after the fact. So I'm going to go back to object mode, press delete on this guy. Then I'm going to go back to EP curve. I'm going to go to 2 degree, and now you'll see I need at least 2 points for it to generate a curve between them. So it's going to generate and interpolate the curvature of this curve based on that point. Now, because they're so close to each other, it shoots over and then gets pulled back. So the further you have them apart, the smooth the transition can become. But again, as you can see, it becomes quite difficult to get very smooth lines when it comes to this method of drawing. Then we've got 3 cubic. So if I just draw them out, as you can see, it generates a curve between 3 points. The next point that I pop down, it generates a curve between these 3 points and then these 3 points, and so on and so forth. Delete that, go to EP curve tool, and 3 Bezier, which is kind of like the Bezier, but not really. As you can see, I can move this thing around and it actually influences the curvature of the curve before, as you can see, like that. Again, this is also not something I really use a lot, because the reason we use curves is because we're going to be tracing images and stuff. I prefer the cubic, but there are different ones. If you go to 5, it would need, let's see, 1, 2, 3, and then it generates a curve. 4, 5. So again, this would still need the most amount of points to be able to generate curves. Last but not least, 7. And as you can see, we can attempt to get these guys working for us, but it becomes a nightmare when we need to trace images after the fact. I press enter, control vertex. As you can see, there's a lot more CVs that we need to move around to get the potential shape that we want. Like this CV is controlling this inner curve, which you wouldn't expect, where this guy is now the outside. Okay, so let's go back to object mode, delete this guy, go to my EP curve tool, resets, and even Maya sets the cubic as the default option. Now let's go draw out just a random shape that we can use to create a surface. So I'm going to drop this guy in here, then there, and then there. And just like I mentioned in the previous lesson, if I keep the points close, I can get a very distinct sharp corner. Further the points are, the smoother the transition between the points are. So I'm going to leave this as my main shape. Press enter, and I will find the CVs exactly where I place them. Now if I want a straight line, I will grab these CVs and I'll scale them flat with one another. I can also grab these 3, scale them flat, these 3, and scale them flat. It seems like I have my slide option on. I'm just gonna turn that off. So then I can zoom in and get these points closer to each other. Remember, you only need 3 points close to one another to get a relatively crisp corner. I'm going to do it with these guys and then these doohickeys so that I can show you how sharp we can get these points. Then of course make that one more round, this guy a bit more round, and that's a decent curve that we can play with. If I go back to object mode and jump into my perspective, you'll see the curve has been drawn from my side view and it's at the origin line for my YZ plane. When I refer to a plane, remember remember guys, the YZ plane. So it's that face in that area if you follow my mouse at the bottom left hand side of the screen. Now I've got this guy. Now there are a few cool things that we can do with curves. The first one I want to show you is called a loft. So a loft can be completed by just using 2 curves as a minimum. So Control D, and I'm going to just pull this curve over. Now, selection order when it comes to generating surfaces using curves is very important. You want to start off where you would like the surface to start, and then if there are more than 2, you would select them sequentially until you reach the end one. I'll demonstrate that in a bit. Then I'm going to go to surfaces, and I'm just going to go use loft. And as you can see, Maya generated a surface, but as you can see, it's inside out, which is an easy fix. I click on the surface, then I go into the surfaces menu, and I just go reverse direction. Now I've created a cool surface using 2 curves. But the coolest thing with this is if I go in and select that curve again and can go Control Vertex, I can manipulate the second curve and the surface will update based on the edit that I've done. This is referred to as using its construction history because it remembers you did a loft. So it's going to always do a loft from one edge to the other edge. Doesn't matter how I manipulate these CVs. As long as I don't delete any CVs, you are fine. At this point, you should not be deleting any CVs at any point in time. I can move this guy out here, for example, and so on and so forth. Now I've got my surface and it's coning outwards. Okay, I'm going to go and delete this guy. I'm going to take this bigger one and put it inside, or the one that I edited. Then I'm going to go grab the first one, Control D, and move it outside. Now I want to demonstrate using multiple curves to generate a surface. So if I go select that one, and the last one, remember in the sequence you want the surface to flow. We have our little loft button up here. Now, as you can see, it creates a surface. It is upside down again or inside out. We can just go to surfaces and reverse surface direction and we are fine. Now, as you can see, Maya's trying to always keep a smooth surface when it comes to surface modeling. So if I even move the center curve, you can see Maya will do its utmost best to keep the surface smooth. So if I even pull this guy up higher, this guy at the end here, I can go pull out more, and the guys at the back here. So let's go grab this guy, for example, and you can keep on moving them, which is great. Now I have a surface that is very smooth and generates no poly count because, as I mentioned before, this is generated through using a bunch of mathematical equations and all that good stuff to generate this surface. So I want this section to round out a bit more in here, so we can go play like that. Now the great thing about this, I have a pre-made surface. So if I want to go Control D this curve and just move it along, and then maybe Control D, then I can go and scale it. Now I want the transition from this curve to that curve to be a straight line, no like fancy curvatures in the surface. Now I need to just go in here and select that curve and Control click on that surface, Shift select that curve, and we're gonna go click on our little lofty dude. Just remember to reverse the surface direction, and then I want to go from this curve to that and Control select that and that guy, and I can go. So I'm gonna go loft and then of course reverse surface direction. Now we've got a very round object that goes into a super straight hard seam, as you can see, and there's still 3 different surfaces. They can still be edited as such. I selected the surface and not the curve. Then I can go Control Vertex, and with construction history on our side here, we can always go and tweak our surface to behave the way we want to behave. Maybe that transition was too sharp. I want maybe a transition like that to take place. Now this is also referred to as patch modeling. You're using a bunch of surfaces and creating patches to generate the final surface that you would like at the end. And if you want to go and delete the curves but keep the surfaces, you just need to select everything and go into Polygon tools, and we just go and delete history. And look in our input section, you can see there's our reverse surface, there's our loft. I'm going to go delete history, everything is gone. Now I still have my surfaces the way they were, but I can go in, deselect the surfaces and delete the curves, and now the surfaces are the way they are. They have no longer a connection to their original curve. Now we also have the ability to go in here and edit their CVs, each surface's CVs. So as you can see, I can go in here and customize till my art's content. Okay, that guy can go move up there. Then here I can go CV points and just add more curvatures and so on and so forth, which is pretty amazing if I do say so myself. There's another cool feature when it comes to curves that we can use to create a very, I would say, complex model relatively quickly. If I go to my side view again, I am gonna go use my create and my EP curve tool, and let's go draw the one half of a wine glass, for example. I'm going to hold on X for grid snapping, so I can put that point right there, and the next point here, so I've got a straight line. Now I want to create very small, small lip that we have on a wine glass, potentially something like that, and then it goes to its stem. As you can see, these guys are not working together very nicely. So I can middle mouse, okay, so I can continue on drawing this guy and get an interesting wine glass shape. Then we're gonna get here where we draw out our stem like so. The wine glass is gonna be, remember, you can always after the fact change the curves if you don't like what you've made. I'm gonna go do that and do, and because I'm creating these super distances, the curve is freaking out. So I can go do that. Then let's go draw the top of the wine glass, or what is referred to as where the party starts. Okay, now I'm going to do the inside of this. I'm doing this very rough. I can always go in and fix it after the fact, and hold on X and snap that to the grid. I'm going to press enter, and I see there's a bunch of weird anomalies happening in here. So I'm going to go right click, control vertex. I see there's vertices fighting with each other. These guys are supposed to be straight. This guy needs to be a little more on the inside because I want a sharper corner. As you can see, these guys don't know what they want. They were backwards there. Yeah. Now we can get that cool little bulge looking thing that wine glass is. Wine glass. Now I'm just playing with the existing curve points. So if you find yourself in a predicament like this, there's too many CVs and you would want a straight line from, say, this CV to the next, you can just select the CV and press delete. And like I've mentioned before, the less CVs the better at the end of the day, because the more you have, the more chances there is that you need to fix up little issues like this guy down up here. As you can see, it flips over on itself. I can go and delete that one, make my life a tad easier. Then I can go see what that one is. This guy is the one that makes that corner transition, which is pretty cool. I would like all of these guys except these outer guys to be a straight line so that we have a cool wine glass. Wow, this wine glass has a very big bottom, so let's go do that. I was kind of misjudging sizes there, it seems. Now again, in here, that one can move closer to that one to get a sharper corner. I can go around here to produce a better transition, delete ones that are causing problems. So now I've got 3 points here to generate a nice sharp crisp corner. I didn't see that CV there. Move that guy up there. Now again, I would like these guys to be straight, and this guy to sharpen up that corner. I'd also prefer like where we can have a taper in a bit more to be a fancy wine glass. And now we are just playing with these CVs to get the thickness of the glass we want. I can potentially use this guy a bit higher up. And then this guy is for that as well. Then we just finagle them ever so slightly into position. We can take this guy, move it straight down, because as you know that it is the center point. Delete that point, also potentially delete that point, again leaving me with a better curve with less points than more. As you can see, I've created basically a cut through section of the wine glass. See here, there's still problems with these ones. Get that corner a little bit straighter, maybe delete a little bit more here. Cool. Now I can go right click and go to object mode, and then we've got basically a silhouette or half a silhouette of our wine glass. So if we go use another tool that everyone likes, the revolve tool, we need to make sure, if we go to our perspective, the point we want this geometry or this curve to spin around on is at its center point. So those 2 points line up, and then we go click revolve, and booyakasha, we have a wine glass made. Pretty simple, pretty easy. And then we have options of, we can change the sweeps and things like that, but normally for something like this you would want it to go 360 degrees. Now the great thing about this is you've got one curve that can change the entire silhouette of the entire glass, which is pretty powerful in Maya. So I can make it like the rupee down here. Now it's intersecting with that inner surface. We probably do not want that. Make it a droopier one. I can see the bottom section is a bit too heavy. Bring it in, and we are done. We can go delete this guy's history, and we've got a wine glass and a curve if we want to make more, or we can just duplicate the existing wine glass. Let's go put this guy back at the origin. So that is the revolve tool. You'll also find it in the top 3 tools in the surfaces menu. There's revolve, there's loft, and then there's another one called planar. So if I go delete that, I can go and just create a circle, which is a curve. So I can grab that circle, I can go into here and create planar, and Maya I'm just going to go and reverse this surface. Yeah, surface, reverse. As you can see, Maya just creates a NURBS surface within that circle that we have. So now we've got a lot of points that we can play with. As you can see, that is actually controlling the actual surface, which I don't want. I turn on wireframe on shading, so I want to do that and deselect the inner point there. And now we also have the opportunity to go in and change the curves. So those are the 3 main tools that you use within creating NURBS surfaces. There are more complex ones which I'm going to be covering in future sessions, but for this session I'm going to end it off here, and the next session I'm going to be showing you more interesting ways to create NURBS surfaces and NURBS objects. So catch you in the next lesson.